Ladies and gentlemen, Pittsburgh Steelers fans all around the globe, welcome back to another episode of The Standard is the Standard. My name is Jeff Hartman. I'm the editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. And if you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate it. If you're not, let's say you're listening to us on podcast, whether it's on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com or whether it's on our iTunes channel or Blog Talk Radio, you can find us on YouTube by simply going to YouTube and Googling BTSC or searching BTSC Steelers Radio. Subscribe, and that way you get all of our podcasts that we do on this platform. The sound quality is a lot better. And with me, as always, as we get ready to talk about nothing but Pittsburgh Steelers for the next half hour or so, is Lance Williams out on the West Coast. Lance, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, feeling frisky. The air is getting crisp, and I'm ready to jump right into it. Jeff, the Colts game, another 20 points. We're on the air talking about them getting close to 30, 28, whatever, and we keep seeing it week in, week out. Give me your thoughts on the offensive performance against the Colts and answer this question for me. Is this offense ever going to break out?
That's a really difficult question for me because as everyone that's listened to this show, not just on YouTube for the past 15 episodes or whatever, but years that Lance and I have done the show together, I'm a very optimistic guy. He calls me Joy for a reason. It's because I always see the glass is half full and not half empty. I do think that the team is going to break out. I just think we need to change our expectations for what that breakout will look like. I think a breakout game for the Steelers offense would probably resemble more of, that 28-point outburst where it used to be almost 40. Just a consistent level of rhythm is what I'm not seeing. And so you asked me what I thought about the Colts game. I thought the offense was atrocious for, let's see here, three fourths quarters of football. So 3 3/4 of the game, it was bad. It was horrible. Play calling was bad again. The execution was horrible again. Roethlisberger seems a little bit off. I want to talk a little bit about that in a second, but I want to get
Again.
There's some caveats there, and I want to make sure we talk about this, but I want to get your opinion first about the breakout. And do you think the Steelers will be able to break out? And do you think that maybe I'm right when I should say we should just temper our expectations a little bit?
Breakout? No. This offense is not going to break out and be the offense that people expect that it's going to be, considering the offensive personnel that it has and the fact that the offensive line is a top 5 offensive line in the National Football League. No, it is not going to break out, because I think what people expect when they say breakout is they expect an offense like the Rams or like Philadelphia that's highly efficient on third down in the red zone and scoring 30 points and above, or like the Patriots game in, game out. That's not going to happen, and it's never going to happen. And one of the primary reasons why is the two guys that run the offense, Ben Roethlisberger and Todd Haley. Ben Roethlisberger is not the player that he has been in the past. We can all clearly see that. He's an inconsistent player, particularly on the road. We've talked about that ad nauseum. And secondly, it's Todd Haley. You don't have any rhyme or reason as to what the offensive plan is on a week-in, week-out basis. And lastly, Ben Roethlisberger, as good as he has been, and that's a Hall of Fame guy, the offense has always been highly inconsistent in the red zone.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. I think the one thing with Roethlisberger, and I've thought a lot about this the past few days, and, a couple of the writers for the website have, we talked about this off, obviously not on a show, not in an article or anything like that. I look at Roethlisberger's his deep throws. That's the biggest inconsistency for his game right now is the deep throws. You look at the first throw, the deep throw that was intercepted by Martavis Bryant. I didn't think it was that bad of a throw. It wasn't what we had been seeing where it went out of bounds or anything of that nature. That was not the issue. I think Martavis Bryant never got his head around, didn't track the ball, wasn't able to even make a play on it. Then you look at the throw to Antonio Brown, which in my opinion, that should have been caught. I thought that was a really good throw. Antonio Brown said he lost it in the lights. I'm not sure if I buy that. A lot of people think that he made a business decision in terms of he's going to kind of bail out to not get tattooed by that safety that was coming over late. I thought that was a really good throw. There weren't many throws that Roethlisberger made that I was sitting there thinking, wow, that is off. Prior games, go back to week 8, the Sunday night game, where he missed Jesse James over the middle. That was one of those throws I'm thinking, this guy is out of his mind. How do you miss that throw? I didn't feel like he had those. I thought that his deep ball accuracy is improving, and it's improving with the more times that he throws the ball deep, and as well as he gets more repetitions with the players that are running deep, like Martavis Bryant. What were your thoughts on his deep passes, especially the one to Antonio Brown? That was a big sticking point with me and the writers that I was speaking to. They all said that Antonio Brown, that the throw wasn't that great. I thought it was a good throw, that Antonio Brown makes that catch probably 9 out of 10 times.
His body positioning on the throw, fading to the sideline, was weird. I didn't think it was a bad throw, but I didn't think it was a great throw either. Going back to the Martavis Bryant throw, you've got to make that throw to the boundary. You don't throw that. You don't make that throw inside. I thought he could have had a better effort on it. It looked like both of those guys in those instances lost the ball. But one of the throws that stuck out to me was, even though the McDonald throw was a touchdown, I thought he threw it over his head. I thought he threw it over his head. And the other throw was the third down throw to Juju Smith-Schuster when he almost got Juju killed. There just isn't a consistency and a rhythm in the offense. And for instance, right, you want to know why, in my opinion, the Martavis Bryant deep balls don't connect? It's because he runs 2 routes.
Yep.
He runs drags and he runs go routes. So if you're a defender on Martavis Bryant, you're just going to give him a 12-yard cushion, turn and run. He's not going to cross your face with the post. I mean, he's not going to run anything else against you. He's not going to, as much as they run go routes with him, riddle me this. How about just running a comeback?
Oh, yeah. Back shoulder throw.
A back shoulder throw, a comeback. Because if you're guarding him, because they've run so many go routes, you're just going to sell out on it, and that's going to be open at all times. But we never see it. And so these articles that you see this week, and I don't know if I believe them or not, about Haley being on the hot seat, it's justified. And you alluded to that early in the year that, Haley might be the odd guy out at the end of the year pertaining to the offense.
Yeah, especially with Roethlisberger, Ben Roethlisberger is very transparent when he speaks to the media. He knows what he's saying. He knows what point he wants to get across. And when he says things like, oh, why aren't we running more no huddle? You'll have to ask Todd. That is a statement from the quarterback saying that he doesn't necessarily agree with that. And we'll talk about no huddle when we talk about the Titans game here in a few minutes. But for me, you look at Martavis Bryant, the biggest play he's made this year was against the Minnesota Vikings in week 2. What route was that? Post route. Hit him in stride, outran the safety, touchdown. I don't think he's run that route since, to be honest with you. So it just doesn't make sense. And that's the thing. I've had people email me, readers of the website. I've had people on Twitter reaching out to the BTSC Twitter account saying, what is the one thing wrong with this offense? I honestly cannot pinpoint just one thing that's wrong. I can't. I've tried. You want to say Ben Roethlisberger's inconsistency, but he hasn't been that bad. You want to talk about, okay, the offensive line. I think they've been okay. Some say Le'Veon Bell doesn't have the burst anymore. Sure. Todd Haley's play calling. To me, it comes down to it's a combination of everything. It's like the perfect storm. All these things are going wrong, and they're kind of snowballing on them. And they're going to have to make some drastic changes, and I'm not talking about firing a coach. They're going to have to make some drastic changes if they want to see some success. When is the only time we've seen success with the Steelers the last few weeks? The end of the game, the end of the half, no huddle situations. I think that's going to play a role here in week 11 tomorrow night, depending on when you're listening to this, on Thursday night when they play the Titans. But in terms of going all the way back to the very first question, will they break out? I think they will, But I just don't think it's going to be the breakout people expect. People expect 40-plus points. And, thinking back to the games against the Colts where they had Roethlisberger threw 6 touchdowns and 500 yards, that's not going to happen. I think maybe if they score 34, maybe that's your breakout. So we'll see. I don't know. You don't know what to expect anymore. I try to predict what the offense is going to do. I have no clue. I have no clue at all.
And in all fairness to Todd Haley, let me include one other route that Martavis Bryant runs, and that's not really a route. That's a bubble screen. So you get bubble screens, reverses, go routes, and drags. That's pretty much the involvement of Martavis Bryant in the offense. And I agree with you. The breakout, I'm not even going to say 34. I think the breakout is more like 24. But from a defensive perspective in the game, I thought they looked like a team that hadn't played because they had a bye week. They looked rusty. They didn't look like they were playing with the speed and tempo and physicality necessary to win a road playoff game. I thought that switched in the second half when they were down 17-3. And I thought Tua took some time to get warmed up. But when Tua started cooking and they started rolling, I thought you saw the intensity. We've seen them give up some big plays in the last 2 weeks, but I'm not overly concerned about that because when you look at the both of the plays, the one in the second half when Sensabaugh was in coverage, that was just a bust. That was a bust coverage. The nickel corner did not go with the vertical route, and it was a touchdown. They've got to get that guy on the ground, and Artie Burns has to stop overreacting to pump fakes and peeking in the backfield. You can peek, but you can't overreact to the pump fake, and the pump fake held the safety. Touchdown. Other than that, I thought they played a pretty solid game. If I were to give out a game ball, my game ball would go to both Tuitt and Shazier. Shazier for the big turnover, the interception that he got late in that game. How did you think they played defensively? And before we do the Titans game, when we do the Titans game, we'll speak to also the loss of Joe Hayden in the game.
Yeah. I thought that the defense played okay. After a really rough first half, you take away those big plays, and that's easy to say. You don't allow this rusher to have a 70-yard run, yada yada yada. But honestly, if they don't allow those 2 60 and 61-yard touchdown passes, that's a tremendous game. I thought the defensive front, like you said, really got warmed up in the second half. But I think honestly, the whole team just came out flat. It almost seemed, and I know this is fact, by the way, that when they play a Thursday night game coming up, they start game planning for that Thursday night opponent before they even play the prior opponent. In other words, they were watching tape of the Titans before the Colts game. They have to. You have to prepare yourself for it. It's a short week. You're not going to have enough time to jam-pack an entire game plan into that short amount of time. And so because they do that, it looked like they were overlooking the Colts 100%. And a lot of people don't buy into all that stuff. They say that they're professionals, this, that, and the other. I know. And the Colts, look, they have players that came out and played their butts off, and they were 1 or 2 plays away from winning. But Pittsburgh's a gritty group. That's one thing we're learning about this team. You can say all you want about the offense. You can criticize Keith Butler and Todd Haley or Mike Tomlin till you're blue in the face, but you cannot say that this team is not gritty. They don't quit. They win ugly, and sometimes that's all you need. I'd much rather be talking about an ugly win, and we've said this multiple times this season, Lance. I'd rather be talking about an ugly win than talking about a really bad road loss to another sub-500 team. So I thought the defense, if I'm giving a game ball to anybody, it's to Ryan Shazier. I wanted to give it to, you know what, changed my mind. I'm giving it to Vince Williams because that fumble was one of the worst calls I've seen in a long time. And the refs did everything they could to cover their rear ends by saying that the progression was stopped and all that stuff. Horrible. That would have been a huge game-changing play, would have happened before Shazier's interception. So that's who I'll give my ball to. So any last thoughts before we head out to the injury report and the Titans game?
No, jump right into it, Jeff.
Okay, so let's talk about injuries. I cannot remember the last time. When we're entering week 11 here for Thursday Night Football. The Tennessee Titans have 0 players on their game status report. 0. No one's ruled out. No one's doubtful. No one's questionable. They are a healthy team from top to bottom. It's kind of crazy, but it's the truth. It's official report. For the Steelers, we knew that Joe Hayden was going to be out. In terms of the duration of his injury, well, that depends on who you talk to. Medical experts on Twitter and on different social media platforms. I know that a lot of people are saying it's going to be a 4 weeks. Some say 3. Some say 6 to 8. It all depends. But the one thing the Steelers aren't doing is they're not putting him on injured reserve, barring another injury to another player, and they're basically taking it week by week. So Mike Tomlin said he's out this week. He's probably going to be out next week. And then we'll see as it progresses how bad it is. And that's something that they're not releasing, and they don't have to. As for the questionable players, there's no one listed at doubtful. I should say no questionable players. James Harrison with a back, Vance McDonald with an ankle, and safety Mike Mitchell with an ankle. If I had to guess, I would say out of those three, if I'm picking one player that's going to play, I'm going to say Mike Mitchell. Mike Mitchell practiced more than McDonald did this week. That means something to Mike Tomlin, but you never know. Those three are going to be game time decisions. And James Harrison has had a pretty good history against the Tennessee Titans. I don't even know why I said that, because it's not like he's going to play even if he does dress and get a helmet anyway. So let's dissect the Tennessee Titans, shall we?
So, Jeff, on the offensive side of football, you mentioned the no-huddle offense, and we've heard that. And it's weird with the no-huddle offense. That's almost like it's the magic panacea for the Steelers every single year when there's talk about the Steeler offense struggling. Like the no-huddle can just rescue everything. In regards to the no-huddle offense and this Tennessee Titan game, give me your offensive keys and your breakdown for this game. Do you think the no-huddle offense will factor into it?
I think it will. I think it will for a lot of reasons. You know, we all talked about how poor the offense has been in the first half. Let's not forget that they only had 3 home games in their first half of the season. 5 on the road, 3 at home. Don't think that didn't play a role. I know Ben had the stinker against the Jags at home, but what I'm saying is that now that they're going to be playing 5 of their last 7. Yeah, they only have 2 road games left. At home at Heinz Field, that helps them. Mark Caboli, who's now with the Athletic in Pittsburgh, he wrote on Twitter the other day that he did their no-huddle percentage. They've run the no-huddle about 12% of the time so far this season. It's the lowest percentage since Todd Haley was been the offensive coordinator. The highest percentage was 2013. They ran it 20% of the time. It made me think about that 2013 season. Boy, that season was a lot of fun offensively. That was when Jericho Cottrey, I believe, had 10 or 11 touchdowns that year. Really, really fun year. It started off really bad, but they kind of worked their way back, and they leaned on the no huddle, and it was that muddle huddle that Roethlisberger kind of got control over the team. They never really subbed off, so they got the personnel they wanted on the field. They kept them on. I would be totally fine if this offense kind of reverted back to that. If you have a lead, there's no need to run it. I understand that. But when you come out in the first series, bring a hurry-up mindset. If you can get a lead on a team like the Tennessee Titans, that's my key, number one, is to get a lead. Have a good start. I can't think of the last time they had a good start to the football game. And you think about Indianapolis, the second play from scrimmage is a interception. And now they didn't get any points off of that, and it was basically like a long punt. It just stymies everything. I want to see them get a good start, get a lead, because what do the Tennessee Titans do the best? They run the football. So you want to get them out of their own comfort zone. It's kind of a defensive key at the same time because you want to get a lead, and I think they can do that with the no huddle. Let Ben Roethlisberger run the show for a little bit, see how it goes, and I think that you might see some success there. I think the Steelers need to throw the ball early in this game. The Titans give up a lot of yardage through the air. They're much better versus the run, and Dick LeBeau's defense, just like it was in Pittsburgh, same in Tennessee. If you spread it out, that's how you can exploit it. I think the Steelers' offensive line, especially with Marcus Gilbert healthy, he's got a game underneath his belt now. He didn't have that. He didn't re-aggravate that hamstring injury. You can throw out Chris Hubbard as an extra tight end if you want. They have options now on the offensive line. I think the Steelers can certainly run a lot of 3-4 wide receiver sets, maybe throw in an extra tight end from here or there, and just really dissect this defense, possess the football. I think that you spread them out. Okay, so get a lead, spread them out. And then lastly, please, please, please just protect the football. I don't think the Tennessee Titans win this game unless the Pittsburgh Steelers give them help. That would be in the form of a blocked point after touchdown, a blocked field goal, a muffed punt, really stupid interceptions and fumbles. If the Steelers protect the football, do what they're supposed to, I think that they're going to win. We'll talk about predictions here in a little bit, but those are my three keys. They're really simple, actually. I think you spread them out and throw the football early, get a lead so that you're protecting that lead. You use the no huddle by doing so, by the way. And then lastly, protect the football. Don't turn it over, and I think they'll be fine. Lance, what do you think about those keys? And then let's throw it over to the defensive side.
I think they're solid. When you look at their secondary, they do give up some big plays and they do give up a lot of yardage. And I think the pass rush is average and the linebackers are just okay. Let me ask you one quick question before I jump into my defensive keys. How big of a factor do you think the Dick LeBeau piece is? Do you think Dick LeBeau will have a good idea of how he wants to attack this offense? Do you think it's muted by the fact that they know Dick LeBeau really well? Just speak to real briefly the whole Dick LeBeau impact on this game.
Yeah, I mean, people have asked all on the website and on social media, oh, Dick LeBeau knows this offense. Well, don't you think they know his defense too? Yeah. I mean, Dick LeBeau's been doing the same thing since he started coaching, and it's always the same thing. We're going to stop the run. We're going to make them throw to beat you. And they're going to load the box to stop Le'Veon Bell. I understand it. I do the same thing if I were a defensive coordinator. I think that's one of the reasons why I said you want to spread out the defense and really take those one-on-one matchups. I think Eli Rogers could have a big game in this game on Thursday night, as well as Juju Smith-Schuster throwing a couple deep balls to Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant. I think Roethlisberger has a good game. I think we might surprise some people in terms of his performance, but I think it's muted because as Dick LeBeau knows the offense knows Dick LeBeau's defense. Keith Butler is his understudy, for crying out loud. I think he knows what LeBeau's going to want to do and how he's going to want to do it, but that's just my personal feelings. Lance, what do you think?
I agree. I think that's a really good point. I think it will cancel each other out because of the familiarity with both. And bottom line, I don't care who the coach is. It comes down to players and players executing the schemes that coaches dial up. And I think both teams will be comfortable with whatever they see on both ball, given the familiarity with the coaches. On the defensive side of football, I think it's going to be pretty challenging for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hate when I make it really simple, but I looked up all these stats. I wanted to come up with stats and and all this stuff, but I watched like 4 straight Tennessee Titan games. And the one thing that just strikes you every single time that you watch the game is they want to get after you with the running game. I mean, clearly they want to run the football. And when you look at DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry and Marcus Mariota, those are 3 guys that can really run the football. You're talking about 2 running backs with over 400 yards, with long runs of 75 yards a piece for both of those. And that's the biggest thing with this offense is not only do they run the ball successfully, they average about 4.2 yards per carry, is they have home run hitting backs that if you're not sound in your run fits and tackling, and we've seen this defense have some issues with that this year, that you have running backs that can take it to the house on you. And that's the first thing that jumps off the page with them. Also, you have a mobile quarterback that can beat you with his legs. So with any mobile quarterback, the keys are the same. You have to rush him smartly, and you have to keep him in the pocket. I mean, what you want to do with Tennessee is you really want to limit them on first down in the running game to get them behind schedule to make Marcus Mariota have to make plays on third down. In the passing game, I mean, their most dangerous weapon is Delanie Walker. And the Steelers have been, I wouldn't say bad, but I would say just relatively average when it comes to guarding tight ends. And I think a big matchup in the game will be Shazier against Delanie Walker. In the running game, I think a big matchup will be whoever sets up as that right defensive end, whether they're shifting the line and it's either of the 3 that start or even Alualu, they're going to have to really be solid in taking on Tyler Lewan. They love to run in that direction. And to that point, Watt is going to have to be very sound in his gap discipline and not getting too inside and getting sucked in and allowing the running backs to cut. If they can handle the running game, then it'll go a long way to them winning. The other thing is this defense is going to have to bring its big boy pass, particularly in the red zone, because Tennessee runs it really effectively in that area, and they are really humming in the red zone. But it comes down to one thing, and it's all the same, and it's the same rhyme. If you want to have fun, stop the run. You have to put the game in Marcus Mariota's hands. They have, the wide receivers aren't great. They're solid guys that will make some plays. But if you can make Marcus Mariota and make it a Mariota game, particularly with his arm and not his legs, then the Steelers will win the ball game.
Yeah, I mean, I think defensively, these games worry me. You think about the 2 games they've lost already to Chicago and to Jacksonville. Both of those teams have one thing in common offensively, and that's they are run-first, run-oriented units. And that's exactly what the Titans are. And so the Steelers, like you said, they're going to have to bring their big boy pads. I do feel that they have improved from a run defensive standpoint with their run fits and all of that. Do you agree with that they have improved since that Week 5 loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars at Heinz Field?
I think it's been more consistent. I mean, we saw the issues that they had with Jacksonville, but I think with Tuitt in the starting front 3, I think it'll be much better. And it's not like Tennessee is trying to trick you, although they are very multiple in what they do. The runs are the same, although there is some window dressing to it, and they'll give you some RPO stuff. So it's somewhat tricky, but it's a physical between the tackles running game with a touch of off tackle stuff. So the Steelers will have to be disciplined because they are going to get a bit of window dressing, in the running game. But if they can tackle, remain gap sound, they'll do really well against this offense.
Yeah, and the question you asked earlier in his defensive question, it's a good time to bring it up, is about the loss of Joe Hayden. I think this is a game that, if you're going to have Cody Sensabaugh in there, this is probably the game you would pick because I just don't see Mariota slinging the ball around 40-plus times in this game unless they have to, in which case that's a good thing for Pittsburgh because that means they probably have a lead and Tennessee's having to throw their way back into it. Ultimately, I think that Sensabaugh, he has experience. He's going against his former team, so you want to talk about a little added motivation. But the loss of Joe Hayden is going to be significant, and anyone that says it's not is just fooling themselves. They're pumping themselves up mentally so that they don't face reality. But ultimately, I think that this is a big injury. You look at the teams they're going to be facing. Joe Hayden just had a calming presence, I felt, in the secondary, and that's going to be gone. So we'll see how they do this Thursday night. They'll have a longer break, obviously, almost like a mini bye week. Before their following game, which I believe is against the Bengals. I could be wrong. I'll have to look up their schedule. But Lance, what do you think about Joe Hayden and Joe Hayden's dismissal? Well, he's injured for probably at least the next 3 weeks.
Their next game is against the Packers. The following game on the 4th is against the Bengals. But to your point, I think the loss is significant. I will agree with you there. But because of the defense that the Steelers run, I don't think the loss is as big as some are suggesting. I mean, this isn't a man coverage team. And that's a big thing in this game because you want eyes on Marcus Mariota in this particular game because of his ability to run outside the pocket. Because they aren't a primarily man team, I think they can get away with it better than others. He is a great player. And anytime you lose a great player to a defense, you do feel the impact. But because they're a cover 3, cover 2, some matchup zone stuff type team, I think they can get away with it. I think one play to point out was a play in the second half in the 4th quarter where great play on T.Y. Hilton running a comeback and being able to break that pass up on the sidelines. In cover 3, you're still going to have to cover the vertical stuff, but it still is zone. So you're not manning up. It's not press man. In a scheme like that, if you lost to Joe Hayden, I think his loss would be much more significant. It'll be significant, but because of their defense and the coverages, I don't think it will be as significant.
Well, here's a question I agree with you 100%. Here's another question for you though. You're Keith Butler. You're putting together a plan for Marcus Mariota and the Titans. Do you spy Marcus Mariota? And if you do, who are you spying him with?
I think you spy him in certain situations. I think you would have to spy him with either Sean Davis or Ryan Shazier. And I say Sean Davis because you have to have people that can run. You couldn't do it with Vince Williams because Vince Williams can't run. So the only two guys I think you could do it with would be Shazier or Sean Davis, but you may not do it with Shazier because he's the only guy that can run with Delanie Walker. Because you're not going to cover Delanie Walker with William Gay.
No.
So
yeah,
I mean that's the chess match there.
I never would have thought about Sean Davis. That's a really good point. I was thinking obviously Shazier because of his speed and athleticism. I was even thinking maybe what if you put a defensive back out there like a Mike Hilton, but I don't think that would schematically work. I think Sean Davis is a better fit. That's a good point. Is going to be, would you say, the second best quarterback they've played so far this year? Second to Matthew Stafford?
Well, it's looking like maybe it's Case Keenum, the way it's going this year. But probably, I think Mariota is definitely in the top tier of quarterbacks that they faced this year, given the injuries to the quarterbacks and the guys that they get to avoid. But Jeff, it's brass tacks time. We got to pick a winner and give me your winner in Thursday night's game and tomorrow's big ball game.
Okay, well, because of the short week, I had to prep my prediction article to run tomorrow, Thursday. So I've already written this article. It's going to run tomorrow morning. I just see the Steelers as a superior team. I know that the offense is underwhelmed, and I definitely think that they're due for an improved game, a game where you kind of sit back and say, this is what we've been waiting for. It's finally we're getting to see something that resembles an offense that we expected. I don't think it's going to be a huge outbreak because I think the Tennessee Titans defense is a very good defense. I don't want to underscore them or not give them credit because I think they are good enough to get the job done. But I expect the no huddle to be a factor. I think the Steelers can get into a rhythm early. They get a lead. I like the Steelers to win this game and to improve to 8-2 by the final score of Steelers 27, Tennessee Titans 17. There you go, Lance. 27-17. I have the Steelers. Who do you have to win this one?
The Titans, when you watch them, are very underwhelming. Like they run the ball pretty well. They play defense pretty well. They're solid. They don't make a ton of mistakes, but they're not really explosive. And they tend to play close games against everybody. So it's hard to really get a gauge on just how good they are. I think the Steelers have better personnel and are definitely more talented on both sides of the ball. In Pittsburgh, having to travel, I think all that plays into the favor of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Steelers will win the game. As far as the score, I think this is going to come down to special teams. And one guy that they cannot let get loose in this game is Adoree Jackson. To a battle of kickers between Suckup and Boswell. Boswell with a bad miss last week. It'll be tough on the Steelers, but I do like the Steelers to win this game. I like the Steelers to win a tight ball game, 24-20.
Okay, I could see that score. Absolutely, I could see that score. Interesting fact, there's been 10 Thursday night games. I always believe that the visitors are at a huge disadvantage having to travel on a short week. However, only 4 home teams out of the 10 games have won on Thursday Night Football, which is definitely bucking a trend from previous years that definitely looks at the visiting team as a huge underdog because of the short week, because of having to travel. So take that for what it's worth. But we both like the Steelers. That kind of scares me. Sometimes that scares me. But we've been pretty good this year. We've been pretty good.
I mean, I have to keep picking them each week because I've kind of picked them a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah, you're right.
I continue to pick them and give different scores and different reasons. So Jeff, take us on out in terms of no. Before we go out, I have a WTF. If you don't have a WTF, I'll jump into mine.
Go ahead.
Here's my brief WTF. And I took a picture of the quote, and it was a quote from Cameron Hayward, one of the captains for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as I looked through my phone here for the quote, it kind of rubbed me in an interesting way. And I want to make sure that I quote him right. Here's the quote. Cam Hayward is not concerned with stepping on opponents' throats. The quote is the following. If we win every game from here on out by 3 points or less, I will not care. A win is a win. And he's absolutely correct. But what makes this a WTF is, me and you both know, looking at this football team, there is no way that they will continue to win every single game here on out by 3 points or less. I mean, at some point, style does matter. Wins are more important, but at some point in time, it's how you're winning. Because when you play a good football team, if you're winning games in the fashion that they are against mediocre and average teams like the Indianapolis Colts, it's fool's gold, and the glass is actually half empty.
Yeah.
So
it's good. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So my point is, winning games is fine, but you got to start paying a lot of detail to how you're winning these games, and if you're really winning. If you're really playing good football.
You're right, because if you play the New England Patriots at Heinz Field and it's a tough-fought game and you battle it out and you get a game-winning field goal, yeah, you'll take 3-point win and you'll run all the way to the bank with it because that's a phenomenal victory. However, you barely beat the Indianapolis Colts, who their only wins were against 2 winless teams at the time and a Deshaun Watson-less Texans, and that's a little bit different. To me, I honestly feel, you think back to, Lance, you have children, and they're not as young as mine, but you always have those pictures of those long drawbridges, those rope drawbridges that go from like one side. There's typically lava underneath and someone's being chased. I almost feel like the Steelers are right in the middle of this drawbridge. And they're either going to have to put the pedal down and start running to get to the other side, or the bottom's going to drop out. And the 3-point wins are going to turn into really bad losses. I think this team is fully capable. The defense has kept them afloat, thank goodness. I think this team is capable of starting to really play good football, and it might have something to do with playing at home. We'll see. But this is a turning point for me. It's a short week. These are those games where you go out and you just have to gut it out. You literally just have to say, you know what? Everyone's banged up. Everyone's sore, probably a little tired, but you know what? They're tired too. They had to travel. We didn't have to, so suck it up. Let's go out there, home turf, color rush uniforms, color rush Lance, everybody, and get the freaking win. You know what I'm saying? If they win this game, it's a huge game because they're both on 4-game winning streaks, both teams. If they win this game, they're 8-2. They're sitting pretty heading into a Sunday where they can watch New England play. But also it would take Tennessee down a rung in terms of the AFC standings, head-to-head tiebreakers, things of that nature. It's a big game. They lose this game, and all bets are off in terms of the AFC, and let's just hope that doesn't happen. So, Lance, you have anything else to share before we send it off?
I do not. Thank you for your time, sir.
Absolutely. Just make sure everyone remembers to check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Tomorrow, Thursday, this is a Wednesday night show, so Thursday, man, stay with the website all day. We're going to have, I guarantee you we'll have probably 13 articles published before game time. So check it out. We're going to have film room articles, roster breakdowns for the Tennessee Titans so you can kind of get familiar with the opponent. It's a short week for everyone, including myself and the website crew that we have. Just make sure you check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for all your Pittsburgh Steelers needs. Next week, we'll be on Wednesday, Lance. I mean, it's the day before Thanksgiving. That's up to you. I'll leave that up to you. We could either postpone or we could push up to Tuesday. We'll talk about it. What do you think, Lance? Do you have any ideas right now?
We'll see. It depends on if I started eating pie by then.
As your personal trainer off the air, I definitely don't recommend that. So, with that said, hey, everyone, enjoy your Thursday night game. Make sure you check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for all your Pittsburgh Steelers teams. We'll see you next time.